The Mediterranean glittered under a hard, unforgiving sun. The kind of summer afternoon where the sea looked like polished glass stretching endlessly into the horizon. On that water, the yacht Oralux drifted like a floating palace, white hull gleaming, marble floors catching the light, gold trim flashing in the sun. A machine built not for necessity, but for pride. At the helm stood Captain Richard Halden, 63 years old, shoulders broad but worn from decades at sea. A man who had once dared the Arctic Circle alone, where ice tore at hulls like knives and sleep was a luxury. Now, nearing retirement, he had traded frozen hellscapes for calm luxury cruises, smaller tours, private contracts, simple work. The pay was good, the risk was low, or so he thought. Today, his passengers were Ethan and Laura Hale, a wealthy couple marking their 10th anniversary in excess. Ethan, the kind of man whose voice carried arrogance like perfume, every word was clipped, dismissive, as if speaking to him was a privilege. His eyes lingered not on people, but on possessions. Laura was different, graceful, curious. Her interest lay in experiences, not status. Today she'd arranged a private wine tasting aboard, her laughter softer, more genuine than her husband's self-importance. The yacht was a theater of contrasts, luxury draped over something primal, and Captain Richard, he was the quiet balance. He checked systems, briefed the crew, adjusted course for their celebratory voyage toward Italy. Even surrounded by wealth, he remained grounded. He loved the sea, the hum of the engines, the way a vessel responded to a steady hand. But even a calm sea holds shadows. And before the sun set that day, the Oralux would be swallowed by them. It happened just past 4 in the afternoon. The sun burned high. Ethan reclined on the deck, sipping expensive champagne, while Laura immersed herself in a sommelier's tales of tannins and terroir. The yacht glided smoothly, a cocoon of indulgence. Then came the voice. Captain Richard over the intercom, calm, steady, but sharp with urgency. "All guests, please return to your cabins. Lock the doors, now." Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Confusion rippled through the yacht. The guests obeyed reluctantly, whispering questions no one could answer. Ethan scoffed, muttering about overreaction, but even he moved unsettled. Up on the bridge, Richard's eyes locked on the horizon. 3 speedboats, low in the water, black hulls, racing toward them. At first glance, they could have been tourists, fishermen, but their speed was too precise, their angle too direct, and as they drew closer, Richard's stomach sank. Weapons glinted in the sun, AK-47s held high. These were no sightseers, these were pirates. The hum of engines grew louder, deep, throbbing. The crew tensed. Richard barked orders. "Seal hatches! Evade starboard! Cut external lights! Keep calm!" The Oralux turned hard, slicing water. For a moment it seemed they might outrun the threat. Hope flickered, but then a 4th boat appeared. Faster, heavier, cutting them off. The crash hit like thunder. The speedboat rammed the yacht broadside. Metal shrieked, the deck shuddered underfoot. Guests screamed inside their locked cabins. Grappling hooks flew, ropes snapped taut, figures vaulted onto the yacht, faces hard, movements trained. Not reckless raiders, but professionals. And at their center was a man known only as Air. Tall, thick-shouldered, a scar tracing his jaw. His eyes didn't rage. They calculated. Cold. Empty. The eyes of a man who saw people not as lives, but as leverage. The pirates fanned out, rifles raised. The Oralux, once a temple of wealth, was now their hunting ground. The crew scrambled. Training collided with panic. Richard moved like steel. He pushed his staff into position, reinforced bulkheads, sealed passages. His calm voice cut through fear, stabilizing the chaos, but his mind raced. He'd spent his career mastering storms, ice, machinery. But this, men with guns, lives at stake. This was another storm altogether. He made a choice. Kill the engines. The yacht went silent, drifting. The sudden stillness disoriented the intruders, forcing them to navigate corridors unfamiliar to them. It bought time. Richard's voice rang over the intercom. All passengers remain secure. Crew, hold your positions. Do not engage unless necessary. But deep down, he knew, sooner or later, confrontation was inevitable. Air stalked the yacht like he owned it. He barked orders in short, brutal bursts. His men tore through rooms, overturning furniture, ripping jewelry from drawers, yet Air himself moved differently. Slow, methodical. He studied the yacht's opulence, his gaze lingering not on wealth, but on control. His men feared him. Their eyes flicked to him before every move, as if his approval meant survival. He paused before a polished mirror in the main salon, staring at his reflection. A man born into nothing, now standing inside a world built for kings. For a moment, his lips curled into something between a smile and a sneer. This wasn't just a raid. This was conquest.
Locked in the control room with access to the yacht's surveillance feeds, Ethan Hale stared at the monitors. His arrogance had cracked. His face glistened with sweat. He barked at crew members, demanding they do something, yet his own hands trembled uselessly over the controls. For all his wealth, Ethan was powerless. He watched strangers with rifles parade through what he thought he owned. Laura, meanwhile, sat quietly in her cabin, calming herself with steady breaths. She'd always known her husband's bluster was brittle. Now it shattered completely. Richard studied the monitors. The pirates had split up, their formation loosened, an opening. He gathered 3 trusted crew members. Together, they laid a trap. In a narrow corridor, they rigged a net system, a crude, desperate measure, but all they had. 2 pirates wandered in. Guns loose at their sides, careless. The net dropped. Struggle, shouts, fists pounding against mesh. In seconds, the crew overpowered them, binding wrists and gagging mouths. It was a small victory, but it lit a spark. Hope. Not all sparks shine. Some burn. For weeks, Richard had noticed odd malfunctions. Doors jamming, cameras flickering, minor, easy-to-dismiss glitches. Now he knew the truth. One of his own crew had been compromised. Paid off. Feeding intel. A saboteur. As Richard swept through engineering, he found the evidence. Access logs falsified, locks overridden from within. A betrayal deeper than any pirate blade. And worse, the saboteur was still aboard. Richard had no choice. He needed to stall Air himself. He approached with deliberate calm, hands raised, offering what the pirate leader wanted, the location of the yacht's most valuable cargo. Air studied him, eyes narrow. The scar on his jaw twitched as he considered. Then, he motioned for Richard to lead. The 2 men walked the corridors together, the captain steady, the pirate looming like a shadow. 2 men of the sea, but from different worlds. Richard led him to the cargo hold. Crates stacked, shadows stretching. Here, Richard had prepared his final trap. But before it could be sprung, chaos erupted. The restrained pirate had freed himself. In the struggle, an alarm triggered. Lights strobed red, sirens wailed. Air's eyes snapped wide. Rage, sharp and sudden. He shoved Richard against the bulkhead, rifle pressing to the captain's chest. The game was over. The siren was both curse and blessing. Pirates scrambled in confusion. Some ran toward the noise, others toward loot, discipline fracturing. Richard saw his chance. He lunged, knocking the rifle aside. The 2 men grappled in the dim cargo bay, strength against experience. Air was powerful, brutal, but Richard was precise. Years of handling storms had made his reflexes sharp, deliberate. Crew rushed in. A firefight erupted, brief, chaotic. 1 pirate fell.
Another fled. Richard, battered, blood streaking his temple, managed to pin air with the help of 2 crew. The pirate leader roared, thrashing, but iron restraint held. And just like that, the storm broke. The Oralux was theirs again. When the Coast Guard cutter appeared on the horizon, the sun was already sinking. Its silhouette glowed gold against the haze, a symbol of salvation. As it drew close, cheers erupted from the weary crew. Passengers peeked from cabins, faces pale but alive. Officers boarded swiftly, weapons ready, professionalism cutting through the aftermath of chaos. Pirates were secured, the saboteur dragged out in shame. Richard stood apart, shoulders heavy, his duty complete. On the aft deck, as the Coast Guard took statements, Ethan and Laura stood together. For once, Ethan's voice held no arrogance, only gratitude. His eyes avoided Richard's, unable to meet the calm steel of the man who had saved him. Laura stepped forward instead. She thanked Richard quietly, sincerely, her voice steady in a way her husband's never could be. Richard only nodded. His eyes drifted back to the horizon. The sea stretched endlessly, still glinting in the fading light. To most, it was a playground for the rich. But to him, it was a reminder. The ocean was never truly tame. As night fell, Richard knew this would be one of his last voyages. But he also knew it was his greatest, not for wealth, not for glory, but because when the storm came, not of weather, but of men, he had stood firm, and he had brought them home. The Oralux sailed again into the dusk, her scars hidden beneath polished marble, her story etched forever in the memory of her captain.